Crashing down, it hurts inside. And of course, you're listening to the sounds of Real American by Rick Derringer, the theme song to one immortal Hulk Hogan. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. This is the Logan Pettis Show. Why is it the Logan Pettis Show? Well, because I'm Logan Pettis, and it's my show. That's why we called it the Logan Pettis Show. Why am I playing Rick Derringer's Real American at the top of the show? Well, that's very simple. I met Hulk Hogan this week. It was actually, this has been a really fun week. It's been a really fun couple of weeks for me in childhood, for that matter. Big Star Wars nerd, you know. So a couple of weeks ago, I got to go to Galaxy's Edge at Disney. I talked a little bit about that on the last show. And I might touch on some more of that on this show, but got to meet Chewbacca and Darth Vader and got to be part of the crew of the Millennium Falcon, which was really, really awesome. And then in this last week, I got to meet Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan, of course, you all see that I'm the River City Wrestling General Manager. Big into wrestling. Hulk Hogan, not only as far as wrestling goes, Hulk Hogan is one of the icons of my childhood. I loved the movie Suburban Commando. I even thought Mr. Nanny was kind of funny. And I'm a big fan of the film No Holds Barred. Actually, one of my original, managing ideas, as far as characters were concerned, is I wanted to be, what's his name? Brule from No Holds Barred. Remember, he's the guy that was constantly yelling, jackass! And so I wanted to incorporate that, but it's just kind of a deep cut reference. But yeah, I got to meet Hulk Hogan, the immortal Hulk Hogan. And interestingly enough, Hulk Hogan, controversial figure in wrestling. So I caught heat for that. I thought, you know what? Let's meet this guy. Let's put it on Facebook, right? Let's just put the picture out there and, I caught heat. I can catch heat for nothing. People just love to get on Facebook and love to get just bent out of shape about absolutely nothing at all. And then they insert their opinions like I care. And I mean, same goes for me. I'm a very opinionated person. I have an opinion. I've had opinions on wrestling and things like that, and people get all bent out of shape, and then they call me drama king and things like that. So yeah, it's
how dare you?
Exactly. How dare I? Just all right, I'll drop this right now. Let's talk about wrestling. So as I record this, there is a tournament going on right now to determine who the greatest wrestler in the state of Texas is. Folks, I shouldn't have to, wink and if you know, you know. But if you know, you know. Why that becomes an issue. While it's cool, I will talk about this. While it's cool, right now you've got WWE and TNA in a partnership, and that's really awesome, right? And it's once you get past the initial, OMG, I get to see blah 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 on blah 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 show, right? Whichever way it goes, guys. The WWE is never, ever, ever going to do anything to make their guys look bad. And, it's just, it's weird. It's a weird thing, It took a long time for WWE to even acknowledge TNA. So the same thing's going to happen in the indies. You're going to have a bunch of indie promoters that are coming together, and it's like, oh, well, my guy and this guy, and, this promotion's never going to do anything to, make their guy look bad, because then it waters down what they're doing in their promotion. Just all of this, running together of stuff, Uh-oh, I knocked the Batwing out of commission there for a second. So, I think it's silly. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to get mad at me for making that opinion, and again, it's gonna be how could you say such a thing? What makes you an expert? And I'm in no way an expert. That's my opinion. I own a restaurant called Uncle Wiggley's Wieners. We sell hot dogs. You don't acknowledge that another competitor even exists, right? We're not going to talk about, Wiener Schnitzel in our restaurant. It's just not going to happen. We have a far superior product at Uncle Wiggley's Wieners. Uncle Wiggley's Wieners is located at 521 East Davis Street in beautiful downtown Luling, Texas. Yes, downtown Luling, Texas. We're not as bad as we seem on the internet. That's another if you know, you know. Pull on the ear and wink, wink at the camera. Fun times. So back to meeting Hulk Hogan. So I caught flack for meeting Hulk Hogan because it's How could you have your face on here with a known racist?
How dare you?
Exactly. So I honestly, I don't do a whole lot of research for this show, but I thought that I'd sit here and look this up. I know that Hulk Hogan is, let's be fair, said some controversial things and, done some things. And I guess so. I remember that he had a, let's call it, video come out of him with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife. And in there, he uses the N word when he's talking about his daughter and who she is dating. And I want to say that was something like 8 years ago. And he's since apologized for it. And, it says here, this is CNN Entertainment. He has a quote that says, "It's not who I am. I continue to work every day to improve as a person. And this matter is an important learning experience for me in that regard. And as a result, I'm resigning from my contractual relationship with WWE." This is a few years old, obviously. What is the date? The publishing date on this. This is 2015. So yeah. So this goes back a long time ago, and he has apologized for that. And then it goes on and it talks about Booker T. Booker T expressed his disappointment on Twitter. Of course, Booker T's in some hot water right now. From what I gather, he's been talking on and off with somebody who's a pedophile or something like that. Again, I don't know that story. That's not what this is about. We're talking about Hulk Hogan. So yeah, it says here that the remarks came to light amid a $100 million scandal lawsuit that Hogan filed against the website Gawker after it posted a portion of this leaked tape, which was recorded in 2006, and it shows Hogan with Heather Clem, who was then married to Bubba the Love Sponge. We all know the story. And that's just one of the many stories here with Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan's had some controversy. If you ever watch the show Hogan Knows Best, he's not like a super nice dude, and I'm not here to judge the man. I'm really not. I mean, especially when it comes to saying stupid things. I've said my fair share of stupid things. I probably said my fair share of stupid things today. I probably should have said my fair share of stupid things on this very podcast, probably in the last, couple of minutes. So, whatever. I went out and met Hulk Hogan, and I'll give you my story about the Hulkster here in a little bit, but I wanted to go through and just talk about some of the things, this is crazy. I'm looking at wrestlingnews.co here, and these are 25 of the biggest lies that Hulk Hogan has ever told. Do what you told, boy. Anyway, so I wanted to go down this list. These are kind of fun. We got Hogan said that he partied with John Belushi after WrestleMania 2. Which, of course, was found out there's no way that this could have taken place, as WrestleMania was in 1986 and Belushi had died in 1982. It says Hogan was becoming a big babyface of the AWA, was not known by most of the country until he appeared in Rocky III. Thunderlips, the American male versus the American meatball. Anyway, but that movie was released a few months after Belushi's passing, so there's no way that would have happened. I like this one. Hulk Hogan claims that entrance theme music was his idea when he first came to the ring with the song Eye of the Tiger in 1982, which is clearly not true, as Gorgeous George came out to Pomp and Circumstance in the 1940s. Of course, that's the graduation song, or as we know it, the theme song with the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Yeah. Anyway, and that's when entrance music became a big thing. Yeah, in the 70s. If you can recall, the Fabulous Freebirds came out, when I tell you about a place don't want to be a bad street misery. Sorry, Michael Hayes, for butchering the song. Bad Street Misery, which, friend of mine, Miranda Gordy, comes out to still to this day. Of course, it's a covered remix version of that song. But also, I can recall the Von Erichs using, Modern Day Warrior, things of that nature. So anyway, and that was long before Hogan came out to Eye of the Tiger. Hogan was one of the early wrestlers to use theme music, but definitely not the first. All right, I like this one. Hogan claims that the Rolling Stones and Lars Ulrich of Metallica both wanted him as their bass player. Hogan's a bass player. and he played in a band before wrestling, but, he was not like Metallica or Rolling Stone worthy. We all know that one. I like that Lars Ulrich said, I don't know Hulk Hogan. I don't know enough about him. I'm not a huge wrestling fan. I certainly have no recollection of doing anything with Hulk Hogan. Let me know if my Lars Ulrich is good in the comments section. But anyway, it said if Paul Heyman could have paid Hogan and Metallica to perform the live version of Enter Sandman for Sandman's matches at the ECW arena shows in the 90s, no doubt they would still be in business today. All right, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Rules was an album released by Hogan and the Boot Band, which includes a track titled Hulkster in Heaven. According to Heaven, he met a very sick Make-A-Wish child in England and got him a ticket to SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium to watch him wrestle the main event. It says, while Hogan can be commended for the tremendous amount of Make-A-Wishes he has done in his lifetime, the Hogan fact checker has revealed that this story can't be true, as he was not in the main event at Wembley Stadium. In fact, he wasn't even on the card. When SummerSlam 92 occurred, he was not an active wrestler in the company, for he had left WWE after WrestleMania 8 and did not appear on WWE TV until February 93 on Monday Night Raw. He claims that he is the first wrestler responsible for the WWF selling merchandise and had to talk Vince McMahon into doing that. It says WWF sold merchandise and magazines dating back to at least 1978. To his credit, Hogan did not Photoshop himself onto the covers of WWF magazines in 78 to prove this is true. To Hogan's credit, the 80s boom period did lead to an explosion of WWF t-shirt sales, and the company began pushing action figures, video games, wrestling buddies, ice cream bars, and other products that were marketed toward kids. And I can say that. Now, Hulk Hogan was on all of that merchandise. That's why I say Hulk Hogan is one of those icons of my childhood. I remember being a kid, and I couldn't look anywhere and not see Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was on, wrestling dolls, movies. He's in Gremlins 3 for no reason. Gremlins 2. Let me just back that up and correct that mistake right there. Yeah, I can't recall a time where I didn't see Hulk Hogan. Even when I was a really little kid, really, really little, wasn't that big into wrestling. And then I got into wrestling, and then I had a weird lull period somewhere in, like, I don't know, call it 93 to about, 96, where I didn't watch a whole lot of wrestling until, I heard about Hulk Hogan becoming a bad guy. And then I tuned in on Monday night to, see BCW Nitro and fans like throwing stuff at him. And that might have been when, well, I know he did it at Bash in the Beach, but I think he basically repeated the same promo on Monday Nitro from MGM Studios, where he did the, you fans can stick it, brother. And I thought Hollywood Hogan was the most compelling thing ever. I loved the mustache with the beard underneath and like that whole thing. So, I'm a bigger fan of Hollywood Hogan than I ever was of Hulk Hogan. But that stands to reason. When I was a kid, I liked guys like Jake the Snake Roberts, and I liked Rowdy Roddy Piper. So they were always just more interesting characters to me than, Hulk Hogan. Not to say Hulk Hogan wasn't interesting. I mean, the man wore red and yellow, which, he looked like a walking road cone or like a stop sign. And so you couldn't help but watch. You cannot deny that the man has charisma. So, yeah, Hulkamania, I remember seeing it just everywhere on everything at the time. And that is part of why, knowing all of these things that I'm listing off, because it's like, well, yeah, he did this, and you're saying that, you watch the show Hogan Knows Best, and you know that he's not the upstanding, say your prayers, take your vitamins, brother, guy that, he liked to pretend he was. But that said, he still had an impact. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let's just have some more fun. Hogan claimed he once wrestled 400 days in a year. Once again, wink, tug at my ear, adjust my wrist tape. What else do I have to do? There are not 400 days in 1 year. Now, he says this is possible because he traveled between the United States and Japan, that he crossed the international timeline. So, no. It doesn't, no. Not to say that the schedule wasn't stupid back then, but there's no way that you can wrestle 400 days in a year. Hogan claims he was offered the lead role in the movie The Wrestler. Said that Darren Aronofsky offered him the lead role 3 times, but he turned it down because he said he didn't feel he deserved it. Aronofsky denies that Hogan was ever considered for the role. That went to Mickey Rourke, who played Randy the Ram Robertson, who very obviously has some Hulk Hogan influence, but no. It says, while Hogan did star in Mr. Nanny and Santa with Muscles, he claims in his autobiography that he wrote both scripts entirely, only to have his writing credits stolen by the Writers Guild. Why would you take the credit for writing either Mr. Nanny or Santa with Muscles is beyond me. If you've seen both of them, highly entertaining, not good films. He also was not a full-time writer, and the Screenwriters Guild of America, would not credit him anyway. It says, on an episode of Hogan Knows Best, he claimed that the reason why he didn't get the offer for the George Foreman grill was because he was out picking up the kids from school. I remember this story. He said that basically he missed the phone call or something like that. And Hogan, if you remember, he had the Pasta Mania restaurants. And I think there might have been another licensed product that he had. It says he also told another version of the grill story. The other version claimed that his agent called him and presented him with 2 sponsors. One was a meat maker and the other was the grill. And Hogan went with the meat maker and told his agent to present the grill offer to Foreman. So, he's going to take credit. He's like, oh, yeah, brother, it was my idea for George to sell the grill, brother, yeah. Full of crap on that one. Hogan claims to be the first to slam Andre the Giant. Andre weighed 600 pounds when he slammed him, and Andre died a few days after the slam. Also not true, because he slammed Andre. Well, the one that he always takes credit for, whenever he talks about, I picked up that big smelly giant Andre and I slammed him to the ground and the fault line shifted and thank God Donald Trump's a Hulkamaniac, brother. I'm sure we've all heard the promo. But no, it says he was the first to slam Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3. Many fans know and have seen footage now, especially with YouTube out there, of Andre being slammed by Harley Race, Jerry Lawler, Kamala, Antonio Inoki, and others in the days of the territories. Hogan himself slammed Andre when he was a young heel before Hulkamania was even a thing. Andre did not get up to 600 pounds in his lifetime, nor did he die a few days after he was slammed by Hogan. Yeah, that's right. Because WrestleMania 3's 87, 88, something like that. And Andre died in 93, 94, somewhere in there. Oh, it says right here, 1993. So there you go. Hogan said he sat next to Kerry Von Erich on a flight to Japan 72 hours before Kerry killed himself. So, I don't think you can say that on a YouTube podcast. Well, anyway, I said it, it's out there. But it says first Andre, now Kerry. Why Hogan wants to incriminate himself by saying he's been around both before death is beyond me, right? To clear Hogan of any wrongdoing in either case, the Hogan fact checker. I love there is a Hogan fact checker. The fact that you need a fact checker says that you're full of it. Shows that Kerry Von Erich died on February the 18th, 1993. 72 hours prior to this, Hogan was at the WWF TV tapings on February the 15th in Long Beach, California. And the next day, he was at the TV tapings in San Diego. Kerry had already been released by the WWF in August of 1992, and during the weeks leading up to his death, he was wrestling at shows in Dallas for the GWF, the Global Wrestling Federation. So, there you go. God, there's a Hogan fact checker. That is amazing to me. Hulk Hogan said that while in WCW, a pay-per-view bout was supposed to take place between himself and Mike Tyson, but it didn't take place because Tyson was too scared. Highly unlikely. Yeah, Mike Tyson was known as the baddest man on the planet, if you remember that WrestleMania 15. And I think about this time, that's when Hogan was making this claim. Yeah, I think it says here, Vince McMahon wanted Tyson to face Hogan at WrestleMania 6. It's clear if Tyson was on board with that idea, but Tyson was scheduled to be the guest referee on the main event in 1990 for the match between Hogan and Savage. And then those plans changed and Buster Douglas was put into the spot after Douglas knocked Tyson out in Japan. WCW tried to get Tyson, but the company wasn't willing to pay his price, and Tyson opted to work for the WWF instead. So, Hogan says he used to fight Pride fighters in the 70s. Pride didn't exist until 1997, so that kills that. And then Hogan, it says Hogan was, this is a sidebar, Hogan claimed that he was asked to join a startup company known as Ultimate Fighting Championship, and he refused to join because guys got beat up while the fight should be stopped. So, alright, that's kind of nuts. Hogan claims while defending the WWF Championship in Japan, challenger Tatsumi Fujinami shot on him and tried to steal the championship. They're saying that never took place. They say Hogan no doubt could have used those prize fighting championship skills to protect himself. Anyway, it says, Hogan, man, okay, there's another sidebar. He says that Antonio Inoki almost died in '83 during a match and Hogan brought him back with CPR. And then he had to flee the country to get away from the Yakuza. Somehow able to return to Japan several times over the next few years. Hogan claimed that he wanted to turn heel in 1990 after losing to the Ultimate Warrior, but Vince McMahon vetoed the idea. Which, I mean, possible, but anyway, it was hard enough for Eric Bischoff. I heard this on 83 Weeks. It's hard enough for Eric Bischoff to have gotten Hogan to switch in WCW 96 when he did, because Peter Young was like, oh, we all got kids at home, man. We gotta keep the Hulkster as a good guy. We can't just lose out on his merchandise sales. So I highly doubt that he was trying to turn heel at that. He claimed that Undertaker's tombstone caused damage to his neck because he got pile drove on a chair. If you go back and watch, and they talk about this on WrestlingNews.co, that if you go back and watch, that he was so protected, you look, Hogan's head is an inch or two off of the mat. So anyway, 2023, Hogan told a story about a sumo wrestler who is making his pro wrestling debut, and the sumo wrestler refused to put him over. Which they say it was John Tenta went to the ring, they got into a fight. However, this never happened, and they're saying what he may remember is Koji Kateo was not happy about having to put over John Tenta, and so then when they actually wrestled each other, it was tense. Hogan and Vince were offered to buy UFC as partners, but they said no. Actually, they did offer for Vince to buy UFC. I know that Shane McMahon, they say, was a proponent of it, but Vince turned it down for reasons. I don't exactly remember. Let me see. It was mired in controversy at the time, and Vince didn't want to have anything to do with it. Which is funny because, now UFC and WWE are all under the same umbrella. Hogan claiming that Kevin Owens would be a star, which is whatever. Hogan claimed that he batted a .714 in the Little League World Series, but there's no record of a Terry Bollea or a Hulk Hogan for that matter in the Little League ever. Hogan claimed to be scouted by both the New York Yankees and the Cincinnati Reds. Randy Savage was part of the Cincinnati Reds. Part of the minor league system as a catcher before pro wrestling, but no, there's no record of that. Broke his ribs during his match against The Rock at WrestleMania 18. However, it was revealed later that he broke his ribs in a match against Rikishi, and then he says later that he was already injured. Hogan claims that the NWO was his idea, and the NWO would have included the Booty Man and the Nasty Boys. Of course, that Booty Man is Ed Leslie. You may know him as Brutus the Barber Beefcake. You may know him as the Zodiac. Yes! No! Yeah! I'm glad that didn't happen. So, yeah. And that was actually, if you know anything, Eric Bischoff was inspired by an invasion angle they did in New Japan. And yeah, he brought that over. So, Hogan claims that Elvis Presley was a big fan of him, getting himself, of course, confused with Jerry the King Lawler. Elvis never got to see Hulk Hogan in action because he passed away before. And then my personal favorite, and this is online, Hogan claims that he never used steroids, but as he told a federal court in 1994, he did take steroids and he stopped using them in 1990. And it says whether or not you choose to believe that Hogan ever stopped taking steroids is on you. But I will say this, if you look at Hulk Hogan from 1994. Well, okay, let's take Hogan from 1984 and then look at Hogan in 1994 when he showed back up in WCW. He is significantly smaller. He lost a lot of weight, looking a lot more svelte. I don't know that the pythons were still 24 inches, brother dude Jack. Anyway, so Those are some of the biggest lies that Hulk Hogan told. And it's like, well, now, why would you go do this? Because Hulk Hogan is one of the most prolific people in my childhood. As I said, I remember being a kid, and if you hung around with boys, couldn't turn around without seeing Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan action figures. Hulk Hogan was all over your TV. Hulk Hogan was in the movies. Hulk Hogan was everything, right? Cody has a Hulk Hogan to this day wrestling buddy. I think it's Cody that's got the Hulk Hogan. And then my friend Kelly Hoffman, another brother there, he had the Ultimate Warrior wrestling buddy. So anyway, yeah, it's just really cool. And so and of course I watched wrestling, and I remember the moment I became an actual Hulkamaniac. Again, because I didn't really care much for Hogan as like a wrestling personality. Thought it, I mean, again, like that's Hulk Hogan. But until it was a Nitro in 1999. I want to say it was in August, but I don't remember the date. I'm trying to picture the ticket in my head. The ticket is hanging up at my parents' house on my wall. Nitro, he'd already come back in the red and yellow, and we were walking by because we were sitting up yonder, and we were walking by, and he was in one of the boxes, and he was doing Larry King that night because I got to see the Larry King, and behind him is the whole wrestling deal, and he's there, and he's in his Hulkster, the WCW, if you remember the torn shirt, you could buy it, and he was sitting up there, and he was getting ready, and I think they were doing makeup or something on him. He'd already done his stuff for the night, and we walked up, pop, 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 on the glass, and he turns around, and he looks at us like, and does one of those, and thumbs up, brother. And I was like, that is so cool. I'm that close to Hulk Hogan. And then it's like, I wonder what it would be like to meet Hulk Hogan. And then, several of my creator wrestlers down through the years have been like, I'm a mini Hulkster, or Hulk Hogan's tag partner or something like that. So it's this big deal. And then so I find out that he is coming to town, and I could not miss the opportunity to meet a childhood icon. Hang on, check this out. I should have done this at the top of the show. I'm back. Checked it. Right there, brother. Anyway, so no, and that brings me to kind of like topic number 2 regarding Hulk Hogan. So he's come out and he's made all these controversial statements. And as I said here, don't want to give the man a pass for saying terrible things. You shouldn't say racist things. Racism is kind of dumb. It's just like everybody jumps on the bandwagon, and it's like, they also scream about like homophobia and things like that. You're not a homophobe. That you break the word down, and what it means is you're afraid of gay people. You're not afraid of gay people. You're just a jerk. Racism is kind of the same thing. One race is not necessarily, not necessarily. One race is not better than another. Now, will I say, and I hope you don't take me wrong when I say this and be like, oh, Logan's a racist. And that's why I've got to kind of choose my words correctly here, because people will pick apart everything that I'm going to say. But no, he is a dad, okay, first and foremost. He is a dad. And I don't know the situation. I don't know this person that Brooke, his daughter, was dating. But as a dad, he disapproved, and he got angry, and in the heat of the moment said some dumb stuff. And I don't know, I will admit to it, in the heat of the moment, I've gotten upset. Excuse me. Got the hiccups there for a second. And said dumb stuff. Stupid stuff just comes out of my mouth all the time. It's what I do. I'm going to knock the poor bat wing off the world here in a second. So, does that give him a pass to drop the N-bomb? No. But I can also forgive the guy because he's a dad. He's concerned for his daughter. He's angry. He says something dumb. Now, I don't know if there's other issues going on with that. So there's that aspect. He did come out and he apologized. Was it a sincere apology? I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I haven't seen the look on his face or, looked him in the eye and whatever. But he did come out and say, look, I said something dumb. I've said dumb stuff in the past. It's probably out there somewhere if you start looking for it. whatever. Not that stupid, but regardless. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I stand on the platform of everybody can change, and I thank God every day for second chances. So I will give this guy a second chance, right? Some of you won't, and that's your prerogative. But don't, poo-poo on my good time. So, that said, a few weeks back, Hogan comes out on Monday Night Raw, which starts this conversation. And I had this conversation with a gentleman by the name of Arthur while I was there. Shout out to Arthur and the folks over at A Ducking Wrestling Podcast. Check them out. But no, so I'm talking to Arthur, and I said, so he comes out on Raw, and they boo him out of the building. Now, then it became this argument of, is it because he's a terrible person, and has been a terrible person, who said terrible things, who's obviously a compulsive liar, and he comes out to shill, his beer. It's obvious he's there just to shill beer. And the fans had none of it. They booed him out of the building. And then comes the question of, with all of this, is Hulk Hogan somebody that, people still want to see? Well, I can tell you this. I showed up where he was, and there was a room full of people who must feel like me. And when I say a room full of people, I mean this is like a convenience store gas station thing, and they are just snaked in and out of all the aisles, and Jimmy Hart's there, and Jimmy Hart's, make sure everybody that you got your phones on this and that, and that you're ready to go, so that way you can meet the Hulkster when he comes out, and you don't jam up the line. Anyway, and then this line is wrapped around the building. I don't know how many people were there. We'll probably say, safe bet, maybe 1,000 people were there and went through that line. I was fortunate to be up toward the front of the line, but yeah, there were a lot of people. And there were a lot of people in there when I was there, and there were a lot of people, like I said, wrapped around the outside of the building to meet Hulk Hogan. I would say Hulk Hogan is still a draw to this day. He wants to protect their name or protect their whatever, that's fine, whatever. But I say, regardless of, Hulk Hogan is still a big name. Hulk Hogan has done a lot for this business. Hulk Hogan, put wrestling on the map, and a lot of us would not be wrestling fans had it not been for Hulk Hogan. And you can say, well, if Hulk Hogan weren't around, Vince McMahon would have picked somebody else. I don't know if anybody else could have carried it. It's just like they say, if you would have slapped the Undertaker character on anybody else, would it have had a lasting effect? I don't think so. I think Mark Calloway is the one that made that character. I think Hulk Hogan had enough charisma and enough presence and enough of, it to be able to carry, the WWF through the 80s, carry WCW through the 90s, and still show up in 2025 after loads of scandal, after he hasn't had a match in at least 10 years, and that's being kind. Yeah, I mean, Hulk Hogan is still Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan is still a fantastic brand. Hulk Hogan is still somebody that somebody wants to see. So there you go. I understand. I understand why people could be upset with him, but I think he gets a lot more heat than he actually deserves. And that's just my opinion. So there you go. Hulk Hogan, Real American Beer. I will promote Real American right here because Hulk Hogan was cool enough to be like, hey, let's just show up and shill my beer and take the time to meet a bunch of kids that grew up seeing this guy and, thinking he was something special. He's just a dude. So there you go. Everybody, people make mistakes, and if you want to vilify him, so be it. I'm not going to change your mind. Don't vilify me just because I went out there and wanted to say hey to a childhood icon. So that's Hulk Hogan. And then turn around and Saturday, got to go out to Rolling Oaks Mall in San Antonio, Texas. Actually, the same kid that introduced me, the same guy that introduced me to Hulk Hogan and the world of wrestling really is the same kid that introduced me to what I'm going to talk about next. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They had Turtle Power, hosted by, I believe, Hodgepodge-tastic out at Rolling Oaks Mall. Shout out to Hodgepodge-tastic. Shout out to Raul and Donna at Raul's Sports Store out there at Rolling Oaks Mall. I don't know I don't know what hand they had in helping put this event on, but usually they have some sort of hand in putting that on. But I know Hodgepodge-tastic kind of hosted this thing, and it was really cool. They had a lot of vendors going around. They had the guy from Partners in Crime. If you remember Partners in Crime, they're the ones that sang the song at the end of the first Ninja Turtle movie. Remember Master Splinter? I made a funny, and then that song kicks on. Turtle power, Turtle power. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Anyway, one half of Partners in Crime was there. There's a guy that has been Michelangelo for a number of years. He was there. Really cool event. But the highlight of the event, especially for me, somebody just came in the door. But the highlight, especially for me, was getting to meet the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'm telling you this, it's not very often you can make my inner child cry happy tears like that. I'm standing there, and I mean, I know these are guys in suits, but no, it's what it represents. If anybody really knows me, they know that the Ninja Turtles hold a special place in my heart. And I'm talking like the Ninja Turtles from anywhere from 1987 to like 2000. When did the new Turtles come out? I'm going to say like 2005, 2006. So, like the Turtle timeline up to that point, anything after, let's say, 2005, I don't count as a Ninja Turtle thing, except for the TNMT movie that came out that continues the original Ninja Turtle timeline. Like you see the staff from the Turtles 3 movie, The Turtles in Time, where they go to feudal Japan. But no, my best friend growing up was Jordan Glidewell. And Jordan introduced me to the Ninja Turtles. He introduced me to pro wrestling. He introduced me to a lot of things. Batman. If you look up at my desk, I have Wayne Manor. It was one of our favorite toys that we played with. So I have the Kenner Batman Wayne Manor up here. And then actually somewhere, oh, it's way up there, so I can't reach it. But we had the little like Hot Wheels toy car Batmobile. And anyway, Jordan and I would spend hours and hours and hours playing either down in the basement or in his grandma. We called her Mama. Her name was Phyllis. She kind of helped raise me. And we'd spend hours just playing in the Indian room. We had the stuff out, the Ghostbuster thing and the Bat Cave. And so that's what I remember of being a kid, and I loved playing with all of that stuff. And then life happened, circumstances, Jordan's parents ended up getting a divorce, and then I didn't see a whole lot of him. Life got kind of weird there for a while, and I remember I would play with those figures by myself, but it was just never the same. And so, anyway, yeah, I love the Ninja Turtles, and that got me hooked on pizza, which I'm a connoisseur of. I love pizza. I had a pizza today. If you check my sister channel, it's called Unexpected Journey. It is the Geographic Gypsy on YouTube. Pretty soon you will see the videos we shot today. We went to Belton, Texas, and we stumbled upon a little pizza place there, and they had real like wood fire stove with a pizza, and it was delicious. So you can check that out later. Check out that channel anyway. I'll post a link. But no, so Jordan was my favorite person, and I love Ninja Turtles, and I can't think of Ninja Turtles without thinking of him and all of the fun that we used to have. Like I said, we'd play all day long playing Ninja Turtles and Batman. And anyway, standing there, and there's the turtles right in front of me, and they've got like movie accurate costumes. It's a surreal moment. It's like meeting Hulk Hogan, right? I had to take a step back. If you look at the pictures of me meeting Hulk Hogan, which you can find on my Facebook and stuff, but if you look at the pictures, I shook his hand and I look him in the eye, right? And he looks at my shirt. He's like, "I'll go wiggle these wieners, yeah, brother," whatever he said. And I took a step back, and they're trying to force you to take pictures. And I understand. We got to, get people through the line. But I did. I said, "Hang on." I said, "All right, an up, down real quick. I want to sink in. I'm meeting Hulk freaking Hogan, okay?" Never mind all the controversy, never mind all the stupid stuff. This is the guy. And so it's the same thing. Plus, I just got back from Disney, and if you've ever been to Disney and met the characters at Disney, they make sure that you get an experience out of it. Like, these people are trying to talk to you like they are real people. Except there it's kind of the opposite, because it's like, while I grew up with Mulan and The Little Mermaid and stuff, now I did have a moment with Mickey, but it's like, well, grandmother doesn't need to cut my hair much since I, slopped it off with a sword. And I'm like, that's great, Mulan. Can we just take the picture and like get the kids in here that. But no, so this is Hulk Hogan. Yeah, let's take the picture. All right, do the thing. And then the same thing, they're trying to get people through the line for the Ninja Turtles. But yeah, it was cool because I had to take a moment and look to each side. And I'm like, I'm standing with the Ninja Turtles. This is surreal. What is my life now? The Hulk Hogan, 3 days later, the Turtles, 2 weeks ago, Darth Vader, a Chewbacca, never mind Rey and, Kylo Ren, which were later on in my adult life, but still cool. Flying in the Millennium Falcon. What is going on? I'm looking up here. Shout out to Lisa here of Eastern Sky. Like, a couple of years ago, I got to sing with her and Tom. Eastern Sky Quartet, which that was a whole hoot. So they were, side note, this is a side quest. I've got ADD. This is what I do. They were a quartet there at my church, and they sounded like a real, true, like, professional thing that you would hear on television, and I'd never heard anything like that before. And then I remember when Lisa sang the very first time, and again, she sounded like a tape, a recording. I'd never heard anybody that sounded that good. And then come to find out, like, she's also, my second grade teacher. So, yeah. And then as a little kid, she kissed me right there. Or maybe it was right here. I don't remember which cheek it was on, but I remember it. So, and then she did it again years later. I love Lisa. Lisa's one of my favorite people. But side note. So yeah, I'm standing there with the Ninja Turtles. And that was one of the most cool, surreal moments. And then looking back at the picture, and it did. I felt my inner child, and I started to, get a little misty. And that's what I said. I said the only thing that's really missing here right now is Jordan and Cody. And I wish they could have been with me. But, life has pulled us in different directions. And hopefully I'll get to be with them soon. If not, I'll drag Cody kicking and screaming back on my show, and we'll talk about who knows what some more. So anyway, it's been my week. Outside of that, well, that's about it. We got the president and his tariffs, but I'm trying not to get real political on this show. We'll see what happens with that. I'm not somebody that's going to panic and freak out because, as the Bible says, and it came to pass. It'll come, it will pass. People want to get stressed out about it. I'm not. It doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on. Your guy won, your guy lost, your guy's in there, your guy's not. It seems like we go through a 4-year cycle, and then somebody just comes and, now we just sign away whatever the last guy did. And we just kind of start over with almost a clean slate, which, whatever. So I hope everybody out there is doing fantastic. I have about hit the hour mark here. We've got 5 minutes to spare, and I will give y'all your 5 minutes. I want to thank you for listening to the show. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Tell a friend about my show. Tell them there's this crazy guy that just yammers on about nothing. If there is a guest you would like for me to try and get on the show, let me know. If there is a topic you would like to hear me discuss, please let me know about it. Shout out to the Savannah Savages of Savannah, Missouri. I'm wearing their gear right now. That is my alma mater. 20 years ago, I graduated in May. So, yee, I'm getting old, y'all. Well, that's it for the Logan Pettis Show. For Logan Pettis, I am Logan Pettis, saying thank you again for listening to my show. Check out the links for anything you need. Sister page is Geographic Gypsy on YouTube. It's called An Unexpected Journey. You can see me drink weird stuff. You can see where I've traveled to. Check me out on Facebook. I'm Logan Pettis over there. If you type in Logan Pettis on your YouTube search, you will find me singing throughout the years and doing RCW stuff. Oh, shout out River City Wrestling. Check that out. It's on Facebook. X, wherever social media is, you will find River City Wrestling. RCW Forever is typically the handle right there. Shout out again to Shiva Queen, the GoFundMe I've got up on the last episode I did, episode 3. And www.prowrestlingtees.com/Logan Pettis. They're getting ready to have a spring fling sale right now. So you can buy Logan Pettis merch. You can buy Uncle Wigglies Wieners merchandise. Pick it up there. And that's it. That's what we got. Now I'm down to 2 minutes. So we will see y'all in the future. Bye-bye.